There's a moment that arrives without warning when you catch your own reflection and realize you no longer recognize the person looking back, not because you've changed too much, but because you haven't changed at all, and something inside you knows it. If you've ever felt this quiet dissonance, this strange ache between who you are and who you sense you could become, you're standing at the threshold of something psychology considers one of the most profound human experiences: self-transformation. But here's what most people misunderstand. Transformation isn't about becoming someone entirely different. It's about uncovering what's been buried beneath years of conditioning, fear, and survival patterns. It's not addition, it's excavation. And the process, as beautiful as it sounds, often begins in the darkest, most uncomfortable places within us. Psychologists have studied this phenomenon for decades. Carl Jung described something called individuation, the gradual integration of fragmented parts of the psyche into a unified whole. Abraham Maslow spoke of self-actualization, the unfolding of a person's deepest potential once their basic needs are met. But beyond the terminology, there's a simpler truth. Transformation begins the moment staying the same becomes more painful than the fear of change itself. Neuroscience reveals something equally fascinating. The brain isn't fixed. Through a process known as neuroplasticity, every thought you challenge, every old pattern you interrupt, physically rewires your neural pathways. New connections form, old ones weaken. You are, quite literally, reshaping your own mind with every conscious choice to think, feel, or act differently than before. But here's the part most people never talk about. Transformation doesn't feel like liberation at first. It feels like loss, like grief, like standing in a room where nothing fits anymore. Not your old beliefs, not your old relationships, not even your old sense of identity. The mind resists this. Psychologists call it homeostasis, the brain's deep need to maintain stability, even when that stability is quietly suffocating you. Your ego clings to the familiar because familiarity means safety. And so when you begin to change, there's an internal war. A part of you reaches forward, while another part pulls you back toward everything you've outgrown. This is why so many people abandon their own transformation halfway through, not because they lack willpower, but because no one told them the middle would feel this disorienting. No one warned them that growth often looks like chaos before it looks like clarity. And there's something else, something rarely acknowledged. Most people try to transform from a place of self-rejection. They believe they need to fix what's broken. But true psychological change doesn't come from fighting yourself. It comes from understanding yourself. Think about the behaviors you've tried to change. Procrastination, avoidance, emotional shutdown. On the surface, they seem like flaws. But beneath them, there's often fear. Fear of failure. Fear of being truly seen. Fear of discovering you're not enough. When you approach those fears with curiosity instead of shame, something shifts. The behavior loses its grip because the mind no longer needs to protect itself so fiercely. This is why awareness matters more than willpower. You cannot transform what you refuse to see, and you cannot heal what you refuse to feel. There's a deeper paradox here. Transformation feels like becoming someone new, but in truth, it's often a return, a remembering of who you were before the world taught you to hide, before you learned which parts of yourself were acceptable and which needed to be buried. Many philosophers have described this as shedding the false self, the persona constructed in childhood to earn love, avoid rejection, and survive. But eventually, that mask becomes a cage. The journey of transformation begins when you stop identifying with it, when you ask, perhaps for the first time, Who am I beneath what I was taught to be? That question alone can unravel decades of psychological conditioning. And yet, transformation is rarely linear. It moves in cycles. Progress, doubt, regression, clarity. You'll have moments of breakthrough, followed by moments where you feel you've lost everything you gained. This isn't failure. It's the natural rhythm of deep change. Psychologists sometimes call this the liminal phase, the space between who you were and who you're becoming. It's uncomfortable, uncertain, but it's also sacred, because without that in-between, there's no room for something new to emerge. The most profound transformations happen quietly, not in grand declarations, but in subtle moments. When you pause before reacting, when you choose honesty over defense, when you let go of something that once defined you, each of these moments rewires the self. And when enough of them accumulate, you realize you've become someone your past self wouldn't recognize, not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. Transformation isn't about becoming extraordinary. It's about becoming true. It's about learning to walk through uncertainty without needing guarantees. It's about trusting that the discomfort you feel isn't destruction, it's reconstruction. And maybe the most liberating realization is this: you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to stay present through the transition. Awareness itself is the bridge between what was and what will be. If any of this resonated with you, if you felt that quiet dissonance, that ache for something more aligned, you're not alone in this. Consider subscribing if you'd like to continue exploring these ideas together, and perhaps leave a thought below. What part of your own transformation are you walking through right now?